Madeline Zoller. I'm a campaign consultant with Collective Campaigns. I love a media apparatus that's doing the good work. Look at the numbers, y'all. Progressive ideas win. We have to get back to the basics, get to the bread and butter issues that cut across party lines, and we can do this.
It's Thursday, May 5th, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Here at Progress Texas, we built a statewide audience and we reach millions of Texans monthly. That's thanks to folks like you who invest in independent progressive media by Texans for Texans. Huge thanks to Mark Melton, Lauren Pasick, and Angela Kaiser for their ongoing sustaining support. A second straight night of celebration for James Talarico and his team went down at the East Austin live music venue Emos last night. As the post-primary realities begin to take shape for Texas progressives, eyeballing runoffs in May and, of course, the big dance in November. It's a big deal nationally, to say the least. Reed J. Epstein at the New York Times is out in full bio mode, recounting the origin stories of James Talarico that many progressives and Central Texans are familiar with, but the rest of the nation is just discovering a young new talent, energizing Democrats in a decades-long Republican stronghold big enough to lock the U.S. presidency for whichever party finds itself at the wheel here. Great story and a great picture, too, in there about Talarico's first trip to New York City and his first ride on the subway that's about as humble as they come. It's a great read. See that in the show notes. Part of the analysis is centering on the best course forward, of course, for the Democratic Party from here, or at least what a majority of the Texas electorate thinks about that. David Smith at The Guardian believes Talarico's primary win suggests a shift towards pragmatism over ideological warfare, that the choice of Talarico's love thy neighbor approach indicates a strategic survival instinct among Texas Democrats aiming to flip a statewide seat for the first time in decades, betting on the bypassing of partisan vitriol in favor of economic populism and spiritual outreach, plus the correct framing of our real national divide as being top versus bottom, rather than left versus right. As he mentioned in his victory speech last night, the entirety of which I'm tacking on to the end of the Daily Dispatch today, by the way, Talarico's message is and has been that opposition to the current administration is insufficient, that the system itself is broken, and it's time to dump the people who broke it. In with public education, out with Christian nationalism, all framed to appeal to both progressives and independents and quiet moderates as well. Latino voters in Texas are perhaps the most key element to the primary outcome here. Jeremy Wallace at the Houston Chronicle noting that while Jasmine Crockett followed the traditional Democratic playbook by securing massive margins in both Houston and Dallas, in fact, she earned 77% more votes in those cities than previous nominee Colin Allred did in 2024. That's certainly notable. Talarico effectively neutralized that Crockett lead by overperforming in South Texas, dominating in Hispanic majority regions, including Bexar and Webb counties and the Rio Grande Valley. Those wins, combined with his 3-1 victory in his home base of Travis County, left Representative Crockett with no major population centers to counter her opponent's momentum. The Talarico campaign hit those Latino majority areas hard with heavy and proactive investments in both ground game and media buys, culturally specific to those regions, including both Spanish and English content during high-profile events like big soccer matches, the Premio Lo Nuestro Awards honoring Spanish-language music artists, and partnerships with Spanish-speaking influencers, including Carlos Eduardo Espina. The result of all that work in South Texas, a 2-1 margin in those targeted parts of the state for Talarico over Crockett. Wallace believes that Talarico's ability to consolidate the Hispanic vote while also maintaining a stronghold in the Austin area proved to be the decisive factor in his primary win. By showing up consistently in those communities and addressing them directly in their preferred languages, he successfully built a coalition that offset the usual dominance of the Dallas and Houston areas. One need only watch Governor Greg Abbott dredge up old DEI-related James Talarico tweets from 6 and 7 years back to realize that Texas Republicans are perhaps a wee bit unnerved by all this. They didn't get their preferred target in Jasmine Crockett, after all, despite considerable effort in that regard. So now the May runoff between incumbent Senator John Cornyn and Attorney General Ken Paxton has taken on a much more serious and perhaps self-reflective tone. Republicans are now pressuring Donald Trump to intervene, as his endorsement is seen as the only way to unify the conservative base and avoid a brutal and expensive internal battle between here and May that would benefit Talarico and the rest of the Democratic ticket in November. After beating around this particular bush for months, Trump has signaled that an endorsement of one of these guys is coming soon, And he's also placing demands that whichever candidate he doesn't endorse drop out of the race. That is frankly difficult to imagine for either one, unless perhaps a choice ambassadorship or a federal attorney general position should suddenly open up. And on that note, some interesting thoughts about the rural Republican electorate, the lifeblood and true home base of Texas MAGA, and how they're seeing all this at the moment. Suzanne Bell-Snyder, via her Texas Rural Reporter Substack, always provides great insight into what's happening out in the country, and she writes that rural frustration is real and growing. Suzanne sees energy within the Republican coalition and rural Texans beginning to soften as lifelong conservatives have begun to feel increasingly politically homeless, as she puts it. While rural voters, of course, remain naturally conservative, many believe the state party has abandoned pragmatic governance in favor of nationalized outrage politics and culture battles at a moment when small towns and farming communities need their leadership's attention to be on tangible infrastructure, stable water systems, local hospitals, well-funded public schools, for example. However, those leaders have shifted towards centralizing power in Austin and enforcing loyalty tests that often actually undermine rural interests. Again, from Governor Abbott, for example, his undercutting of popular and reliable rural Republican lawmakers who dared to oppose his plan to undermine the public schools at the heart of their constituent communities via the private school voucher scam that's getting underway even now. There's a widening disconnect out there, a growing frustration among voters who, make no mistake, have enjoyed and frankly fallen for performative MAGA extremism, but are now noticing that their lives are crumbling due to Republican neglect. It sounds like a great time for Democratic candidates to get out to these places and talk to these people. More terrific analysis, as usual, from Michelle Davis at Lone Star Left. She's always a great guide at any particular moment in the fast-moving political drama of Texas. Michelle also references James Talarico's overperformance among Texas Latinos, and that the primary's record-breaking turnout of 4.3 million voters included 2.2 million Democrats, who eventually outvoted Republicans by 200,000 ballots cast. Michelle sees this as reflecting an emerging and developing progressive populist movement across Texas that's been quietly building infrastructure, as evidenced the expansion of the influence of the Texas Progressive Caucus, the growth of a more robust and left-friendly digital media ecosystem, including us here at Progress Texas, and now a state party platform that's among the most progressive in the nation. Messaging in regard to the foundational confrontation between working-class folks and billionaires is clearly resonating with voters of a broad range of locations and conditions across Texas who feel they've become disconnected from traditional politics. And Talarico's success in the primary mirrors an economic populist strategy that's gained traction in both urban Bernie Sanders land and across the broadly diverse array of Texas's Latino communities, too. Texas voters appear to be seeing themselves in the messaging coming from candidates who prioritize and indeed themselves share in the economic struggles that now face the vast majority of everyday Texans, regardless of their prior voting history. Bread and butter kitchen table stuff. It's actually kind of crazy how simple that idea really is. A lot of great reading to do today. Links to all this in the show notes. We invite you to snag some merch to match your progressive values at our web store. It's live and ready for you to grab some newly released Humans Against Abbott, Y'all Means All, and Revolution shirts, stickers, and buttons. Hit the web store at progresstexas.org to support your favorite podcast network today. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Thursday, May the 5th, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Our mission at Progress Texas is to improve and save Texans' lives by acting on our shared, bold, progressive values, and that starts with countering the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine. Progress Texas is an independent, nonprofit, rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow. And as promised, the victory speech of James Talarico from Emos in East Austin last night. Enjoy.
Let me be the first to introduce you to the next senator from the great state of Texas.
One thing is clear today. We're about to take back Texas. To the billionaires who have taken over our state and taken over our country, your unchecked power is coming to an end. Your days dividing working people are numbered. To the people of Texas, no matter how you voted in the primary, this election is our chance to take power back for ourselves and our communities. We're done being divided. We're done being played. We're done being pitted against each other. That old politics is dying, and a new politics is being born. Through all of us, I want to start off by thanking Congresswoman Crockett. She is a colleague and a friend. I am so grateful for her voice and her leadership. It was an honor to run this race with her. To the Congresswoman's supporters, I know I wasn't your first choice, but I hope to earn your trust and earn your support. As your Democratic nominee, it's on me to ensure you feel welcomed in, represented by, and proud of this campaign. Together, we're going to do something extraordinary. We launched this underdog campaign 6 months ago in my hometown of Round Rock, Texas. And since then, tens of thousands of Texans have shown up to rally with us in every corner of this state, from Beaumont to El Paso, from Amarillo to Brownsville, and everywhere in between. We have recruited more than 28,000 volunteers who are doing the organizing work all over the state. And we have shattered grassroots fundraising records, all without taking a dime from corporate PACs. This is a people-powered movement to take on this broken, corrupt political system. This is truly a campaign of, by, and for the people. We're not just trying to win an election. We are trying to fundamentally change our politics. My granddad was a Baptist preacher in South Texas, and he told me at an early age that we follow a barefoot rabbi who gave us 2 commandments: love God and love neighbor. My faith teaches me to love my neighbor as myself. Not just my neighbor who looks like me. Not just my neighbor who prays like me. Not just my neighbor who votes like me. I am called to love all of my neighbors the way I love myself. That's what motivated me to go into public service. First as a public school teacher on the west side of San Antonio, and now as a public official. As a legislator, I've brought Democrats and Republicans together to take on corporate special interests, to lower the cost of housing, lower the cost of child care, lower the cost of prescription drugs, including insulin. I am trying to love my neighbor through public policy. I'm trying to make my neighbor's life a little easier and a little better. But that kind of love in our politics has become hard to find. There is something broken in America. Our economy is broken. Our political system is broken. Even our relationships with each other feel broken. And that's because the most powerful people in the world want it that way. The billionaires who own the social media algorithms, who own the cable news networks, who own the politicians fighting on our screens, they want us at each other's throats. They want us focused on how we're different instead of on how we're the same. Because our unity is a threat to their wealth and their power. So they divide us on an hourly basis by party, by race, by gender, by religion. So we don't notice that they are picking our pockets. They are closing our schools. They're gutting our health care. They're raising taxes on all of us while they cut taxes for themselves. The real fight in this country is not left versus right. It's top versus bottom. Those billionaires want us looking left and right at our neighbors instead of looking up at them. They want to keep us from seeing all that we have in common. They want to keep us from realizing that there is far more that unites us than divides us. Because despite our differences, we all really want the same things. A safe neighborhood, a good job with good benefits, a high-quality, well-funded public school, and the ability to see a doctor when we need one. I am tired of being pitted against my neighbor. I'm tired of being told to hate my neighbor. It's been more than 10 years of this kind of politics. Politics as blood sport. Politics as trolling and owning. Politics as total war. It tears families apart. It ends friendships, and it leaves us all feeling terrible all the time. We cannot defeat the politics of division with more division. We can't win their game. We have to change the game. This campaign is rooted in a fierce love for this state, for this country, and most importantly, for all of our neighbors. If you hate politics and you've never voted before, you have a home in this campaign. If you have voted for Democrats, but you're tired of DC Democrats always folding, you have a home in this campaign. And if you voted for Donald Trump, but you are fed up with the extremism and the corruption in our government, you also have a home in this campaign. People across the political spectrum are hungry for a new kind of politics. Not a politics of fear, not a politics of hate, not a politics of division, but a politics of love. A love that can heal what's broken in America. This new kind of politics is being born right here in the Lone Star State. The number of young people who showed up to vote in this election is unprecedented. The number of Texans who have never voted before but showed up in this election is unprecedented. The number of independents and Republicans who voted in this Democratic primary is unprecedented. There is something happening in Texas. The people of this state have given this country a little bit of hope. And a little bit of hope is a dangerous thing. It doesn't matter what happens in this Republican runoff. We already know who we're running against. The billionaire mega donors and their corrupt political system. Not any one politician. Not any one political party. We are running against the broken system and the powerful people who broke it. They're scared of the movement we are building. They're going to throw everything they have at us. They're going to call me a radical leftist. They're going to call me a fake Christian. They'll call our movement un-Texan, un-American. They'll call us a threat. The only truth is, we are a threat. We're a threat to their corrupt system. 2,000 years ago, when the powerful few at the top hurt those at the bottom, that barefoot rabbi didn't stay in his room and pray. He walked into the seat of power and flipped over the tables of injustice. To those who love this state, to those who love this country, to those who love our neighbors, it's time to start flipping tables. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in this fight. God bless y'all.